Hi there. I think that it is very possible and quite attainable for a counselor to remain neutral about their client's values, but we must account for some of the conditions of being human and not knowing everything there is to know about something sometimes. Mental health practitioners are bound to APA standards for ethical practice, so it is important to know that if our values are compromised somehow with the client, we are taking all the necessary steps to assist them. It is not expected that a counselor completely abandons their values, just that they are able to manage them and respect a client's right to wellness, no matter what they believe in, according to Corey et al., 2024, page 77. Counselors must stay aware of their own potential value conflicts and monitor personal reactions during session. Counseling should focus on the client's values and needs, not the counselor's. The counselor's role is to help clients clarify their own beliefs, apply them to problem solving, and if needed, re examine or adjust their values or actions while exploring possible options for growth, according to Corey et al., 2024, page 82. There was anecdotal evidence in our textbook of a religious counselor who provided a great example of mentoring and reflecting with the client about his spiritual beliefs and values, but never once indulged her own. Uh, Many counselors are drawn to work in religious or spiritual settings or to integrate spiritual issues into their practice. While interest in this area is growing, many feel unprepared because of limited training. Some pastoral uh, counselors come from ministry backgrounds with added counseling education, while others with strong religious beliefs pursue counseling degrees and work in faith-based agencies, blending their religious values with counseling ethics. This can create ethical tensions, such as respecting client autonomy when beliefs conflict. Beyond explicitly religious settings, more counselors are incorporating spirituality more broadly, viewing it as central to how clients make meaning in their lives, according to New Krug, 2024, page 72. I do also think that a counselor's personal values may subconsciously or accidentally enter the counseling relationship and can strongly influence it. So, counselors have an ethical duty to recognize and monitor how their values might be communicated, especially given the power imbalance with clients. If personal beliefs are allowed to take priority over professional responsibility, they risk harming the client and the therapeutic process, according to Corey, 2024, page 76. We must empower clients, not influence them. If a clinician believes that a client could benefit from spiritual development, that is irrelevant unless the client is the one who brings it up and desires it. Counselors must focus on empowering clients rather than influencing them. While such a request can certainly be authentic, there is also the risk of unethical, even if unintentional, influence. And a client may raise the topic not because it reflects their true wishes, but because they believe the clinician expects it or they will gain favor by doing so. And even in faith-based facilities where a clinician's beliefs are espoused by the faculty and enshrined in institutional policy, an ethical counselor should not impose their religious beliefs, according to Corey, 2024, page 76. One case that stood out to me in our literature involved a young woman who is considering an abortion, and how a therapist would address this challenge if they had values that do not support abortion. This stood out to me because I have formerly worked at a faith-based pregnancy crisis center, and I actually lived there as well in 2020. I was able to work overnights last year as a peer support advocate. And it was very interesting because in our employment standards, we were instructed to align with the Catholic Church's pro-life vision that prohibits discussions of abortion and birth control. But this was not clearly defined in any like manual or written down, but it was verbally instructed to me. And while this organization helped me a lot while I was in the program living there and respected that I am not religious, I felt very conflicted when I returned there to work in the program, because I am very pro choice, and it became clear to me they were trying to influence abortion policy. I felt my role was very limited and not actually defined as peer support, because I was somewhat restricted in what I could speak to clients about, and I could not really tell them the whole truth about my story because of those restrictions. And I ended up leaving this position because I didn't feel like I was a good fit for the culture, but I did learn a lot from that experience. And if I were a therapist working with a young woman exploring her pregnancy options, I would have to consider many factors, such as her age and the current abortion laws. According to nebraskalegislature.gov, the Nebraska Revised Statute 43-2101, anyone under the age of 19 who is unmarried is defined as a minor. This distinction is important because Nebraska law does not expressly authorize minors to consent to pregnancy-related care, meaning that in most cases, parental or guardian involvement is required for medical decisions. While there are statutes such as 71-504 that allow minors to receive certain types of treatment without parental consent, these typically apply more to medical emergencies and do not generally extend to counseling in pregnancy situations. According to the abortion law in Nebraska expressed in Statute 71-6901 to 71-6911, it specifically requires notarized parental consent for minors under 18 seeking an abortion unless there is medical emergency or the minor pursues a judicial bypass. In counseling practice, professional privilege is protected under Statute 27504, confidentiality, but confidentiality for minors has limitations since parents or guardians may have rights to access information depending on the situation. According to Statute 71-6903, if a minor cannot or does not want to get parental consent, Nebraska law allows them to petition the court for a waiver of parental consent, and the court must hold a hearing and decide within 7 days. In its decision, the court will consider whether the minor is sufficiently mature and well-informed, or whether the minor has been abused, neglected, or sexually abused, or whether obtaining consent would not be in the minor's best interests. And grandparents can get involved and testify in these cases of abuse as well. For counseling adults about abortion, I must be mindful of the current abortion restrictions and requirements. I actually ran into some difficulty in my research because according to the Nebraska Revised Statute 28-3, 106, found at nebraskalegislature.gov, the ban on abortion begins at 20 weeks. However, there are numerous articles and informative pages that assert it is actually 12 weeks. In fact, all the other literature besides the actual page that has the statute says that it's 12 weeks. 12 weeks from the first day of their last menstrual period, except if their life is in danger or at risk of serious bodily harm. Exceptions are made for cases of rape and incest. Abortion from medication through telemedicine cannot be obtained, and a common second trimester abortion method is also banned. There's also a condition where parents must receive state-directed counseling. Patients must receive state-directed counseling. That consists of a pre-recorded message usually, and then a wait period of 24 hours applied before the procedure can be provided, according to the American Civil Liberties Union of Nebraska. In practice, this means that if I were counseling an adult client, I could explore her support system and discuss the full range of options available, respecting her autonomy and confidentiality. If the client were underage, my ethical and legal obligations would shift. I would need to involve her parents or guardians in most cases, and I would be able to counsel her directly toward decisions. I would be unable to counsel her directly toward decisions like abortion or adoption or other things like that without proper consent. Instead, my role would be to provide support within these boundaries, helping her process her emotions, identify safe supports, and understand the legal and medical structures that shape her options. Thank you.